Spyderco, a name that commands respect in the knife world. When I was researching on buying a new pocket knife, I kept seeing their name come up, and I knew they made good stuff just from the reputation I've read about and saw on YouTube, but their knives were always outside of my price range. When I lost one of my, I believe it was a Kershaw knife, I lost it and I was in the market for a new one, I started to really fall for the Axis type locks on manual folders. I held one and I just fell in love with it and I had to have one. So I started doing some research, but at the time Benchmade did not really make anything that I was really interested in. And then I saw what I wanted and I had to have it. It was a Spyderco, and so that it was just settled. I had to save up the money and buy it, and within about 2 weeks I had my very first Spyderco that I've had now for 2 years. Enter the Spyderco Manix 2 XL. Guys, it's a phenomenal knife. Like I said, I've been wearing it for 2 years and I can't say enough good things about it. It's a larger knife, which is what I wanted. I wanted something that was pretty decent for self-defense, but also very usable for everyday tasks, such as cutting straps, cutting leather, plastic, whatever it may be. And also being able to be used outdoors. And I saw a lot of YouTube reviews where people were doing things they typically did to fix blades to this knife, and it was holding up. So to tell you a little more about the knife, it is an overall length of 8.94 inches with a blade length of 3.85. The edge itself is 3.36. The grip material is made out of G10. It's textured, it's like a medium texture. The clip can be reversed from left to right carry, but it can't be reversed from tip down to tip up. The blade steel itself is S30V, so it's a very hard rust-resistant steel. I like them a lot. It's a little hard to sharpen. I'll get into that later, but a very good premium steel nonetheless. I've been wearing this knife for 2 years, and it's not a super heavy knife. The overall weight on it is 5.2 ounces. It's not a super lightweight knife though. Some of the offerings from SOG, like the Flash and all those are super lightweight knives, still very usable, very good knives. But I wanted something that was a little heavier, something that was made out of, the liners and everything just made out of thicker steel stock. So the blade thickness is 1.125, and that's about what I'm used to with the other offerings I've had from various other companies. So there was that. What was new to me though was the flat grind on the blade. So I'd never owned a flat ground blade before, and I didn't really know what to make of it. I always thought that they kind of look like kitchen knives. Being that kitchen knives kind of have that same, either that or hollow grind, depending. But quite honestly, the flat grind has lent this knife to being very good at tasks such as food prep. It'll split, it'll baton through things like nothing. Large sticks and small logs and everything, I've put it through it. And I should be showing some clips of that too in this video. But the knife has performed flawlessly. I have absolutely no blade deformation, and the lockup is still very solid. Speaking of lockup, speaking of its actual deployment mechanism, it uses the Spyderco bearing cage system, which is very similar to the Axis lock by Benchmade. I will say one thing that I like more about the Benchmade Axis locks is they are a little smoother and a lot less stiff than these knives. However, this knife's locking system has never failed me. And this knife's a little dirty from being used, so usually it comes right out just like that. Sometimes it'll lock up just because I have to clean it. I've been using it outside. The G10 itself is pretty high quality. I have some chips in it from wear and everything because I do put this knife through a lot. But it's held up really nicely. I've used this knife in the rain. Recently with the hurricane here, I was using this knife in the rain, and it did phenomenally. It was great, and I couldn't be happier with it. The liners, I don't know if you'll be able to see it in this video. The liners are milled, so that has decreased a lot of the weight on the knife. The clip has never bent out of shape. I've had some knives or they've bent over time, and this clip has stayed pretty strong, and it's kept it in my pocket very, very well. I've never lost the knife. I really like the overall thought on the blade shape and the handle shape. The handle shape really, it has a lot of recessed grooves for the fingers, so it fits the hand like a glove. This ramp back here has jimping on it that there's liner lock, or there's liner jimping right here, and then there's ramp jimping, and they're two different types because it's, you know, this is not a part of the blade, but it really feels like they were meant to be together. So when you put your thumb on it, you feel that positive track of constant texture. And then right here, where the index finger goes, there's jimping there, the choil, there's jimping there, and I like how you can ramp up on the blade here to do finer work, like if you're stick feathering or carving. And that has made this blade very usable for finer skills, finer tasks. I added a lanyard, of course, like I do with most of my knives, so I'm able to pull the knife out a lot faster, you know, grosser motor skill to pull it out. But overall, the knife is very smooth. I've enjoyed carrying it. I still will continue to carry it. I tend to go back to this knife even when I try other knives out. It's just because there's something very substantial about carrying the knife, at least in my opinion. It's a long blade, so at the blade length of 3.85, it's almost 4 inches. It is a pretty long blade for a pocket knife, and you can even get down far where the bottom part of the grip is extended to work as almost like a pommel to keep your hand on the blade. You can get some extra reach if you need it, but it's a very long blade for a pocket knife. Most of my pocket knives are usually not that long. They're usually about maybe 3.5 or so. It's pretty good for self-defense. It has a lot of belly on the edge, so there's a lot of surface area to cut with. And I've experienced that firsthand with the tasks I put it through. Even testing it on meat, like beef and pork, just to see how it would cut through, and it did very well. The steel itself, S30V, I've owned a few knives in S30V, and it is a very hard steel. It's very resistant to corrosion, which is cool because in Virginia Beach here, we're right by the ocean, and it's very humid in the summertime. Having a knife that is not prone to rusting is pretty important. I will say this though, the one gripe I've had about S30V throughout the years is it is so tough to sharpen. And I've sharpened this knife with a Ken Onion Work Sharp, and it's dull now. I have to get it back on the strop and everything again, but S30V takes a long time to wear down the edge, but it also takes more work to hone the edge because of how hard, I guess it's because of how hard the steel is. But every knife I've ever owned in S30V has been like that, and this one is no different. The tip, I was afraid that the tip would be fragile because it kind of looks thin at the end, but I have never had a problem with the tip breaking or chipping. So I'm really happy about that. I guess it's just a well-tempered blade. I don't expect no less from Spyderco's US offerings. So if you are looking to get a larger Spyderco knife, something that's a little more tactical, that's a little more robust than like, I don't know, like a Delica or something like that, even though those are great knives, the Manix XL, the Manix 2 XL is an amazing knife. I can't recommend it enough. I have put it through enough to say that it's a thumbs way up on our side. So if you have any questions about this knife specifically, if you want to know more, post it in the comments below or send us a message. If you have anything that you would like us to review or talk about in the self-defense world or in the gear world, please also post it below, and we'll see if we can get a video out to accommodate that. Any other questions, same thing, just post it below or message us. But other than that, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. Hope to see you soon. Bye.